Hey, this is Evil Ed from drumline.net in Las Vegas. My friend Lez Warner. And we're going to talk some drum stuff.
How you doing, Evil Ed?
Good to meet you. Or see you again. And speak about maybe a little bit of your history.
Well, I grew up in London. I was born in '61 in London and grew up with the Beatles, the Kinks, and all that great stuff. My father was a real hard-working man, and he knew how to relax at the weekend. So every weekend he would bring home a box, a cardboard box full of singles, 45s. Right?
For those kids.
For those kids, 45s are vinyl 45s. Of the Kinks, the Beatles, the Hollies, all this stuff, right? And in front of the box, at the front part, there was candy, chocolate, and all that. And as far as I'm concerned, he weaned me in to music. You know what I mean? Well, yeah, some could say that. But so at an early age, I was listening to all this great stuff, and it influenced me. And my best friend was into it as well, and he played guitar, so we really put it together really early, and grew up. I did a lot of slogging, working with lots of bands, and I'd work in like 3 or 4 bands a night sometimes. I was just like a workaholic, and I never really trained as far as doing the rudiments or anything like that. It was just really by ear that I listened to those records, and it came natural, And I had a couple of lessons that showed me, the guy wanted to show me rudiments and that. I'm interested in that, So just show me how to use the kit, and that was the start of it. And before I even left school, I was working the weekend in a club band, awful club band that played all these covers, social clubs in England.
Right.
And I'd have a light meter on the side of the stage, and every time it went, it was like a traffic light.
Right.
And every time it got into red, for a certain amount of time, it would turn off all your instruments. Power would gone.
Who controlled that?
Well, the light meter.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And everyone was looking, and all these people were looking at the light meter, going, they're getting get a bit loud, And because the volume, this is old pensioners,
Right.
False teeth on the table and all that, So I started off before I left school making money doing that, at the weekend, and my dream was just to be a rock star, to be a drummer.
Right.
That was my main aim, and I really did everything I could to do that. Was socializing and just getting out there,
And then, what was your first big, in that sense, what was the first real big when you kind of went, you know what, I'm doing it?
The session with Julian Lennon was the eye-opener, I mean, I've been really struggling for a long time and playing and socializing, and then I met these people, and I got involved with Julian, did his first demos in London at Queen Studio. That was my first big main situation. And then I got a call from Randy California, who was in that 60s band, who was a hippie band that played out in San Francisco, jammed with Hendrix and all these people. He was a great writer. I played with him, I auditioned for him first, and I didn't get the audition, didn't get it. And then later he came back to me, gave me another chance, but he really sort of took me under his wing and explained to me about how to really play behind the beat.
Right.
As a rock drummer, to really hold back, just really drive the bus. So at that point, I got it, and we went on the road and did a bunch of gigs and stuff. And then after that, he went back to America, and I was in London, still struggling and trying to make it. And then I had this manager who hooked me up with an audition for the Cult.
Okay.
And I didn't know who they were. I honestly didn't. They just had released She Sells Sanctuary. And it got in the charts, number 11, I think. And I got the call, and there was 160 drummers going for the audition, right? And actually, I met those guys in a club as well one night, and they came up to me. And in those days, I looked pretty cool. I had really.
We still look pretty cool.
Well, I had I was skinny. I had these red leather trousers. I had a Jimi Hendrix shirt. My hair was like crazy. I had a really big do.
Right.
You know, I had a little bird, a little bluebird living in it for like 6 months. I didn't even know, you know, this thing. And then, you know, I saw him at a club one night, and I said, well, who the hell are you, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was sort of, my attitude towards it was anti.
Okay.
You know, I went against the grain with it because I've been for auditions before and I'd always been nicey. So I thought I'd change my tact here, you know. So I took the train up to near Gatwick Airport where the audition was. I went in there and so I was in there looking good and I played She Sells Sanctuary, right? But in that song, there's a roll, right? Which every drummer, I guarantee, did that roll.
Right.
So I didn't do it. I thought, sod it, I'm going to go against the grain, I'm going to do something different.
Right.
You know, because I just wanted to come across as something different. I want to stand out. You know what I mean? Because you know, everyone would have done that roll.
Right.
Right.
Learned it note for note.
Yeah, so I didn't do it on purpose. You know, and then okay, nice to meet you. Went back to London, got a call the next day. We want to audition you again. I'm like, okay. So the second audition was in London.
Okay.
So I went down to this big studio in London. I walked in there, and there was like no one there. All the gear set up, and then the guys came out. You got the job. I think it was like weird. It was like, you know, they already decided who got the job.
Right.
So there I was. And then like a couple of weeks later, I'm in Japan playing.
So what was the preparation for that? Did you have to learn older catalog material and stuff?
I played the good stuff.
Right.
Because the drummer they had before, Nigel Preston, was really good.
Right.
You know, and that's who I took over from. And there was all tribal stuff. The Dreamtime record was great. I love playing that. So I had a huge drum kit, and I had all the tom-toms tuned and everything like that. And I did all the tribal stuff from Dreamtime, and I actually joined them halfway through them recording Love.
Okay.
And they brought Mark Bazicki for Big Country to do the record.
Wow. Okay.
You know, because they were doing it. Let's do it. So I came in halfway through that, so I got to do some of the videos for that record.
Right.
What was it? Yeah, a bunch of that stuff. And bang, I was out on the road.
Right.
Rehearsing with them, and in Japan, bang. From 1 minute I'm on the dole collecting, you know, Social Security.
Right.
Next minute I'm in Japan. It was pretty crazy.
That was the eye opener.
Oh, it was like, wow.
Yeah, and then
I made it. Hey, Mom, by the way, I'm going to Japan. I made it, you know.
you'd be late for dinner.
Yeah, it was strange, you know.
And then, I mean, and then the albums just took off. It just got really big.
Because that She Sells Sanctuary was a big hit.
Right.
Real big hit. And then, so they basically went on the road. 1986 World Tour. You know, I was out there. You know what I mean? And yeah, it was interesting how something can just change just like that.
Right.
You know.
And speaking years later, they're re-releasing.
Well, after that year of doing the tour, Love Tour, then it was time to do the next record. Right. And we actually went into Richard Branson's studio in Oxford, England, with the same producer that did Steve Brown that did the Love album.
Okay.
And we did pre-production and we went and did the record. Unfortunately, the sounds there was some confliction with the bass, the low end of everything. Like the drums everything was so big.
Right.
Because the Love album was a pretty big sounding reverb record.
Right.
So he was doing the same thing. Except that Billy was like putting like 15 guitars on each song, and it was like, it got really crazy. It got to a point where they they recorded all the songs, and they said, well, we want to try and save this record. They weren't happy with it.
Right.
So the management contacted Rick Rubin in New York, and they took a trip out to see Rick at the studio there. And Rick, they played him the stuff, and Rick said, I'm not going to mix this. This is just awful.
Right.
If you want to do the record again, we'll do the record again. So I got a call. Lez, we're re-recording the record. Oh, God, you know. And the way we did the record in Oxford, it was like all click tracks,
right.
Big drum kits set up, and it was like, you know, dropping rolls and doing this, and it was just like put together, you know.
Right.
But Rick wanted to do it all live, no clicks, no drop-ins, just as the band is.
Right.
So I had 5 days to record all the drum tracks again.
Wow.
And they rewrote the record as well. They rewrote all the riffs, and they made it as dry as possible.
Right.
At a time when Billy Idol's album just came out, all the Motley Crue albums were out, full of reverb, huge sounding records. Our record was like dry as a bone, right? So we did the record with him, and it was out, and they had 3 hits from that record.
3 big hits.
Yeah. And as I say, it was like AC/DC, Back in Black record. It was like so dry, and it stood out like a sore thumb.
It was refreshing.
Yeah.
At that time, when you
Right.
were talking, there was a lot of overproduction. It was the 80s.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and this
Yeah.
was so dry, and there was a certain. I talked to drummers about it because there was a certain amount of pressure on me, you know, obviously re-recording it and doing it on the spot, no drop-ins, nothing like that, because that was the age where you quantize everything, and this was dry. And Rick was adamant. No, that's what you play. That's
Right.
what you are. That's what you do. We leave it.
Right.
So, I mean, some of the stuff on it, I'm like, oh God, it's awful, you know. The first single,
Uh-huh.
Love Removal Machine,
Right.
right at the beginning of the record, of that song, there's like a bass drum beat that's slightly late. And these days, in Pro Tools, they would have moved it.
Right.
But it's there. And it stands out to me like a sore thumb, you know.
But it's a human element to
Well,
drumming.
that's a human element. I mean, you listen to some of those old Zeppelin records and like Black Dog record,
Right.
and you hear it like, wow, time really out and all that, but it's magical, you know.
It is.
So that's what Rick tries to do. He tries to recreate the magic of the independent musician in the band.
And then once that album came out, it shot up the charts. MTV.
I think it
Right.
opened up a lot of eyes, you know. I think
Yeah.
it really influenced the way things were going at that time, you know.
Which you guys did tours with Guns N' Roses, which opened for you guys.
Guns N' Roses came out on the road with us. They just released Appetite for Destruction.
Right.
They came out on the road. I spent more time with those guys, actually.
Right.
In the car, I was in the bus most of the time, listening to Elton John. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty weird. But yeah, they came out on the road with us, and we did that. And it was sometimes, some nights, I would go to the sound check and I'd kick Steve out the drum seat and say, "Let me do the sound check for you." You know.
Nice.
It was fun.
Nice.
You know. And then we went out with Billy Idol. We opened up for Billy Idol. Did quite a long tour with him. And then we did our own stuff, you know, own tour in England, doing Wembley and all these places. We opened up for David Bowie gig we did in Paris. That was actually the Love Tour during that period, and there was like 90,000 people. It was pretty crazy.
That's a lot of people.
I mean, that's adrenaline right there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it doesn't matter what drugs you ever do. There's nothing as high as doing that.
What was the feeling right before you went? 'Cause, I mean, that's that feeling of right before the lights. You know, when the lights kick in, it's just like, okay, and the ground is moving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's
Sound
nothing
is
like it. There's nothing like it.